Freelance was gently riding on the hook in the Big Bay behind Point Detour on the outside of Lake Michigan's Green Bay. When it was time to raise the anchor, I did something that I rarely do. After removing the snubber line and releasing the anchor lock, I used our hand-set chain controller that we have in the cockpit instead of going up to the bow. It's actually something that I don't feel entirely comfortable with doing unless the waters are absolutely calm and there's minimal strain on the anchor chain. Anyway, it worked like a charm, and I had the anchor up in no time at all. So, we headed out of the mile-wide anchorage south towards Summer and Poverty Islands. We had to go south around it before heading up the Big Bay De Noc towards the famous ghost town of Fayette. It's a special place. Many of our boating friends have told us Fayette is a must-see or not-to-be-missed destination. We were really looking forward to it. The abandoned town was made into a Michigan state park back in 1959. It's on the western side of the Garden Peninsula. We figured it would be an easy day's run of about 22 nautical miles to get there. Poverty Island is just south of Summer Island. There's a rumor that De La Salle's ship, the Griffin, might have wrecked here back in 1679, but there's no real evidence to support that. The Griffin is counted as the largest and maybe the only real sailing ship to sail the upper lakes up to that time. It left Green Bay with a fortune in furs and was never seen again. And what happened is the real mystery. Being Danish, I can't help myself, but I have to point out that the skipper of the Griffin was a Dane. His name was Lucas. Of course, I should also mention that it amuses me that back in 1915, the head lightkeeper's name at Poverty Island was Niels Jensen, the same as mine, but as far as I know, we are not related. Niels Jensen is a very common Danish name.
That abandoned lighthouse is really something. Must have been quite an installation at its own time.
Freelance was now headed north up along the shore inside the Big Bay De Noc. Lake Michigan was dead calm. There was hardly a ripple. It's always so very frustrating when we can't use our sails and have to rely on the diesel. But it definitely was another pleasant summer day out on the Great Lakes.
Right on the course of Fayette, here at the bluff. So we should be in about 30 minutes.
That 30 minutes was about right, so we soon turned Freelance towards the buoyed entrance to Fayette, which, because of its unusual spiral shape, is also called Snail Shell Harbor. It's a super well-protected place to tie up. A real hurricane hole, if you will, where the Park Service has constructed a well-built wooden wharf with finger piers. In all, there are just 15 spaces. It's not a lot, and it fills up fast, so you should definitely get advanced dock reservations if you plan on coming in here. We were again meeting up with the crews of the Jubilee and the Annie B. Stone, and we expected to see that other Great Lakes Cruising Club boats would already be here, or that some of them would come in later. The club summer rendezvous was to be held at Escanaba, and Fayette is a logical cruising destination on the way to and from that port. As per our advanced dock reservations, we were bringing Freelance down towards slip number 14. It was at the last finger pier as we were coming in. Generally speaking, I'm not a great fan of the vertical posts along the docks in Michigan. They do make docking easier, but we know from experience that they can easily damage Freelance's T-cap rail. To better avoid any problems, we have learned to carry a couple of large diameter teardrop-shaped fenders when we visit the States. They usually do the trick. That slip was absolutely perfect for us. Having it is what some people might refer to as rockstar parking, because it was the closest slip to the walkway from the docks to the large, intriguing old ghost town and the park's extensive trail system. The Annie B soon came in and tied up next to us.
Did you see the Pelicans out there, Marilyn?
I certainly did.
I saw one of them, but somebody saw four of them. That must have been
we
yours.
saw a whole flock of them.
Did you see? Did they fly up in the air?
A few of them.
Fayette is such a pretty and peaceful place, and even with the old iron furnace and commercial buildings and shore to remind you, it's hard to believe that this was once a bustling commercial port. It must have been a grand sight to see the tall schooners which used to come in here with supplies and passengers, and then see them leave with a cargo of iron. Each iron ingot weighed someplace between 80 to 90 pounds, and they were shipped to Chicago to be turned into steel to build America's railroads. I should mention that we were right. There were some cruising club boats at Fayette, and more came in, both sail and power. As always, it was a fine opportunity to visit with friends and make new ones.
I can wholeheartedly say Fayette is very charming. It was a short walk up the hill from the harbor and past the old buildings to the park's visitor center. We had made advanced reservations for 2 nights, but Neil still felt the need to check in with the park personnel. Fayette is named after Fayette Brown, the manager of the ironworks that were built here in 1867. There is a well-made exhibit inside the visitor center showing what the ironworks, buildings, roads, docks, and railroads all looked like back in the town's heyday. It's captivating. The visitor center also has a very nice gift shop where I bought a few things. It also serves delicious ice cream. The ambience in the state park is pleasant and the mature forest very pretty. The park personnel told us the main reason the ironworks shut down after 25 years of service was that all of the Garden Peninsula's hardwood trees had been cut to make charcoal. The charcoal was necessary for their production process, and without an economical supply of charcoal, it was too expensive to make pig iron here. Now that the forest has grown back, it's really hard to understand that there was once a lack of trees. You have to remember that this all was happening in 1867, though. It seems hard to fathom that was in 1867. There are nice walking paths through the woods. They are well worth exploring. One of them leads to 2 overlooks, which are exceptional views of the harbor. Fayette was a somewhat isolated community of about 500 people. It had a town hall, post office, stores, thriving businesses, a racetrack, sports teams, and many other recreational activities. The iron works shut down in 1891 after 25 years of service. I can assure you that there's plenty for you to explore. The old veranda-type hotel, which was in use into World War II, is one of the ghost town's favorite exhibits. It's lit up at night and once had a much talked about feature, a 2-level outhouse. There's a great many of the town's abandoned buildings that are still standing. Some of them have very interesting historical exhibits that I recommend you walk through. There is, of course, much ongoing maintenance of the large ghost town. Crews are busy on the building with the old blast furnaces. There are also plans to repair the old town hall.
Besides exploring the ghost town and trails, Vicky and I enjoyed just relaxing in the snug harbor. We also had an impromptu social gathering ashore with a group of Great Lakes Cruising Club members. By the way, something extremely unpleasant happened one of the evenings. I chose not to film it because it surely would have made things much worse. 2 captains had a heated argument over dock space, and it escalated. There were serious threats of untying dock lines, extremely foul language, and one captain claimed to have been pushed into the water by the other. It ended when the sheriff's deputies and state patrol showed up in 6 or 7 patrol cars. The cops fortunately managed to calm everyone down. Nobody got arrested. After a couple of nights at Fayette, Freelance was underway again. All in all, Vicky and I would have liked to spend just a little more time at the beautiful state park in Ghost Town. It's that special. Unfortunately, we had to move on because we were on a schedule. Our next destination was at GCCC's annual rendezvous. It was its first time to be held at Escanaba, and this day was the event's official arrival day, so we had to hustle.
We have just left Fayette, and it's a really unique place. It's not a surprise. People have told us that this is a must-see place on the Great Lakes, and it is really, really a nice place to come in. Super well protected. Interesting artifact from the time when there was a big iron factory there. Great exhibits. Friendly people. It was actually a lot of fun to be there, also because we had so many people with us who were from the Great Lakes Cruising Club, so we were able to have a lot of visiting with fellow boaters and friends, and it was really quite a unique place to go in. Highly recommend going here if you are in the Green Bay area. It's a place not to be missed.
We were making good progress towards Escanaba. Escanaba is a port city located on the west side of the Little Bay De Noc. It's at the top of the 120-mile-long Green Bay on Michigan's Upper Peninsula. The city would actually be a new cruising destination for us. We have sailed in the Green Bay area before and found it to be a lot of fun, but had never before visited this particular port, just like we had never been at Fayette before. It's always good to see new places on the Great Lakes. Coming into Escanaba's municipal marina is straightforward. The channel is well marked and the basin is large. It can hold 165 boats. The only negative thing about it is that it has a very heavy growth of pondweeds. That's always a real nuisance, and something that we have experienced in other Green Bay marinas. Our first order of business was to get to the fuel dock. We figured we needed about 25 gallons of diesel. The last time we took on diesel was back at the Straits of Mackinac, and we had to run the engine the entire time across northern Lake Michigan, a distance of more than 150 nautical miles. The weather for the entire passage had not been favorable for sailing. Frankly, I was not happy. During our other Lake Michigan passages, we seldom have had light air for days on end, but we sure did this time. Thanks for watching this episode of Sailing SV Freelance, and we hope you'll join us again for the next one when we further explore Green Bay and Northern Lake Michigan. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. It helps us a lot.